Welcome to the Local Government Association of Zambia TV podcast, and today we'll be discussing something very important to the local government sector, and that's governance. And we have a very important guest with us today, and I'll have him introduce himself.
Okay, good afternoon and thanks for having me. My name is Danny Chibinda. I'm coming from LGAZ Local Impact, where I serve as a capacity building advisor.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, so to start with, I'll just ask for a brief overview of the project and where it's operational.
Okay, thank you very much. So the LGAZ Local Impact Project is an activity under LGAZ Zambia, which was set up to help the government of the Republic of Zambia accelerate the implementation of the devolution policy. So the project is set up in a way that it has three objectives. The first one is to empower the citizens to be able to engage with the local government in the areas where they live. And how is that done? It's done through the established committees such as the WDC, civil society organizations, to make sure that they are well informed and knowledgeable of the duties of the local authority. That's when they can hold them accountable. According to an assessment that was done, the provinces are ranked in terms of their level of development. So you have provinces like Lusaka, Copper Belt, they are way ahead of everybody else. Then you have provinces such as Muchinga, which is new, which is like Western and maybe Luapula, they are at the other end of the spectrum in terms of the level of development. Then we have those that are in the middle. We have, for example, Central Province and Eastern Province. So when we decided to work with government to pick on these provinces, so we had an option to pick from those that are struggling, so where Luapula falls, then those that are a little bit okay, but they're not really up there like Central and Eastern Province.
Okay.
Yes.
Well understood. So, as governance experts, how would you explain devolution to the layperson?
Okay, devolution to a layperson is basically giving power or giving an opportunity to an ordinary citizen to have a voice in terms of what kind of service the local authority should provide where they live. So it's basically putting at the center of everything that the local authority does the people themselves, because at the end of the day, what would be the point of a local authority providing a service which I don't need? They're as good as wasting the money. So if the person has the power to say, this is what I need in my area, and the local authority responds to that, it means the development they are providing responds to the needs of the people. Yes.
Okay. So just by that definition, how would you describe the state of the local authorities that you are working with at the beginning of the project versus where they are now?
Okay. Yeah. So fortunately, when we started implementing this project, we adopted a tool which was called the Local Government Performance Assessment. So that tool was measuring some of the functions that the council is responsible for, to see how they are performing those functions. For example, how are they delivering issues of public health, where issues of waste management falls? How are they, for example, implementing issues of the projects that are determined by the full council? So through that tool, we've been able to track that out of the local authorities we have been working with, a significant number of them, I would say 70% to 75% of them have made progress using that tool. Of course, the others made progress, then it declined, then others, it has not improved. But in governance, there are a lot of factors that affect the performance of a local authority, some of which could be beyond the control of the project. But we do everything that we can through that annual assessment to identify the challenges that the local authorities have, and then our capacity building is tailored to those challenges so that they can improve their performance.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you think, just from your own perspective, devolution can be fully actualized?
What I think, as a capacity building advisor on this project, is that indeed major milestones have been attained in this devolution process. For example, the revised policy which was launched last year, somewhere in May, the circular number 2, circular number 4, and all those, tangible things that we can see, like attachment of staff, the resources moving to the local authorities. So there is a positive trend in the sense that things are moving at a faster rate. But then what we need to do is, yes, the resources that are being provided to the local authorities should translate into improving the service. But how can that be done? It means the local authorities need to scale up their efforts to engage the community. Because if the community will not attest to the fact that services have improved after devolution, then it will be very difficult, or it will be a struggle for anyone to convince central government or the stakeholders to say devolution is working. So the onus is on the local authorities to be able to engage their citizens so that everything that they do adds value to their lives.
Just on the area of citizen engagement, and from my own experience, before I started working for the local government association, I had no idea what a local authority does. All I knew was, a local authority collecting garbage. That was just one of the key things that I knew. So I wasn't really aware of the other functions that a local authority has. So it shows the importance of the citizen engagement, what they should expect, and what the mandate of the local authority is. So how do you think the local authorities can scale up this citizen engagement? Because even just from the work that we do as the association, we found that there's a gap, there's a knowledge gap. So like you had mentioned at the beginning of the interview, how can the citizens then hold the local authority accountable if they're not very sure of what the local authority is supposed to do? So as a capacity building advisor, in the area of citizen engagement, what do you think they can do? What's the best that they can do in that area?
Okay, thank you very much. From the lessons that we have learned over time, as we've been implementing this project for almost 3 years now, is that there are certain, I would say, mechanisms that work for citizens, and there are others that might not work. So some of the things that we have seen work are things like having town hall meetings, where staff from the local authority, the councillor, and the WDC, they arrange a meeting with residents in a zone on a day and time which is convenient for the citizens to come and participate. In that meeting, we have seen the local authority share like their budget, their work plan, and the communities are able to ask questions. How did you develop this budget? How did you come up with the programs that are in the annual work plan? So through such interactions, number one, the citizens are able to know what the council is planning for, who to engage if there's a challenge. They are also able to identify who's their councillor, who is in the WDC, people that are closer to them, who are actually a direct link to the local authority. So that works. We have also, like in Eastern Province, established what we call radio listening groups, where on a particular day there's a radio program on one of the local radio stations in the local language which the people understand, talking about the work that the council does, work which the CDF committee and the WDC does. And then they're able to ask questions. Those radio listening groups then can even share what they learn with the community where they're coming from. Okay. So those are some of the examples I can give, but there are a little bit more actually that can be done. Yeah. Okay.
Those are good interventions.
Sure.
So from your perspective as a governance expert, how do you think we can translate this year's annual conference theme, visionary local leadership in the face of current and emerging developmental challenges? How can we localize it in our local authorities, how can that be translated into tangible development that is benefiting the people?
Well, thank you for that. So one of the means in which we can localize this theme is realigning the work that the local authorities do rather to respond to the needs which are affecting them there, which are affecting the communities where they live. An example I can give is, we know that there's a drought, power deficit. Can the local authorities, through the various funding mechanisms that they have, either from transfers from local government or the on-source revenue, how can they, for example, invest in things like providing water, boreholes to the people, boreholes even for animals, because it's both the human beings and the livestock that is affected. So how can they utilize the resources that are there? But to do that, as we said, they need to go back to the community and identify, okay, which areas have a challenge with water supply, then how do we help them?
Okay.
Yes, so that is one way this theme can be translated into actionable, I would say, points or actionable initiatives at a local level.
Okay, so the local impact project is doing a lot of hands-on work with local authorities. What areas for collaboration do you see with the Local Government Association of Zambia?
Okay, thank you. I know one of the key areas that we collaborate with the Association of Zambia is on the awards of excellence, because we believe that to promote innovation in the local authorities, or to promote a culture of performance, we need to award the people that are doing a good job, or the institutions that are doing a good job. When we do that, one, we set a tone for others to emulate what the other local authorities are doing, because sometimes an initiative that has been implemented by one local authority can be replicated in another local authority. But how will the people know that there's this good practice or good initiative that is happening if we're not doing the awards that we collaborate on with the Local Government Association of Zambia? So that is one way. Another way is we've worked with your team, for example, to develop a tool with the Ministry of Local Government called the Local Government Capacity Assessment. The one I talked about, which we were using as a project ourselves, to scale it up to the national level. So the idea is you cannot just capacity build the local authority without knowing where the weaknesses are. So that too provides an opportunity to know exactly the weaknesses that a local authority has, so that you come up with precise interventions that respond to the individual needs of every local authority. So we've been collaborating on that with the Local Government Association of Zambia, and we hope that this collaboration will keep growing stronger as we do more things that will help our local authorities improve their performance.
Okay. So, in closing, or maybe two questions before we close, what are your expectations from this year's conference? I know it's well underway, but...
Yes, no, I think for me, one of my major expectations is that the key lessons, messages that have been shared in this conference, like for example, we had a session on devolution, translating policy into reality. There were key lessons that came out of that discussion. For example, that when the local authorities and the staff that have been actually devolved to local authorities to implement like health, veterinary services, if they are jointly oriented to understand how the systems work, then there's harmony and efficiency in the way they operate. And I hope that every local authority will take that core seriously. Where they have not done the orientation, let them do it. So that is one of the expectations that I have. The other one is, we know that the issue of having resources to provide services is very key.
It is.
Yeah, it's very key. So it's important that as the local authorities have gathered here, let them share strategies on how to enhance their on-source revenue. Because there's no point in just relying on central government when the local authorities also have an opportunity. They have been given that latitude to generate on-source revenue. So can they share some of the best practices and go and apply them in their localities?
Okay.
Yeah.
So one follow-up question before we end. If you were to point out, other than the things that you've pointed out, one key intervention that local authorities can prioritize in order for them to fully actualize devolution, what would it be?
Okay, wow, that's a trick question. Just one thing.
Just,
Wow.
well, you have
Okay.
mentioned the number throughout the interview. But
yeah, but the most
priority,
critical one.
yes.
The most critical one is that they need to account for the resources that central government is transferring to the local authorities. And by accounting for those resources, it's not just about this is how we spent the money. There has to be results that people can relate to. You say this money that has come from central government, they have done that road for us from the motor vehicle licensing fee that has been, disbursed to a local authority. They have been able to vaccinate this number of animals from the vet services. So if the local authorities are able to demonstrate that, then this devolution agenda, they'll win a lot of hearts, not from just their national leaders, but even from the citizens they are supposed to serve.
Okay, that's actually a good insight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.